called. Please hang up and try again.
Hey, I'm Madeline Butini, the host of 1-800-MAD-BUTT. I'm a visual artist from Australia on a conversational journey to call up and talk with the best artists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries of our time. Join myself and my guests as we unravel the stories behind their breathtaking creations and groundbreaking businesses. Make sure to check out our Instagram for extra show notes. You can view it at 1-800-MAD-BUTT. All right, cool. Let's get into it. Hey, Matt, how you going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks so much for coming on my potty.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's just jump straight into the first question. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name's Matt. I go under the moniker Grain Prince. I'm an artist / social worker, living and creating on Wongal country, which is in Sydney, New South Wales. I'm primarily a printmaker, so I work a lot with lino prints, and I'm sort of like teaching myself etching at the moment, and been through some courses with that, and wanting to maybe do a bit more painting and illustrative stuff as well. So, can't keep focused on one thing, I guess, really.
I think that's just like the art journey, right? You just try out different things that you like, and it's like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, that's what why I loved printmaking at the start, because I was just felt like I don't know, like I think I've got like a pretty good like imposter syndrome inner critic type person living in my head. And like I definitely loved lino because I saw so much expression in like very like raw forms, and I was like, oh, you can make things that are beautiful, and you don't need to be like this amazing illustrator or something. Like you can just make cool prints that look amazing, and it's kind of like a mixture of all sorts of things, I guess. So that's kind of really what drew me to it. And then I think through that I was like, oh, now I want to like know how to do this. And then I think I got really like obsessed with it from there.
Yeah, amazing. And you are also neurodivergent. You have ADHD like moi. So I know that feeling.
Late to the party. I think as a lot of people were probably second year of COVID, maybe the third year of COVID. But like probably had been like putting off looking for a diagnosis for like probably 2 or 3 years before that, just because I didn't know where to go and all that sort of stuff. And then I was really lucky that I had a colleague I worked with had just gone through that pathway. So they were like, this is who I went through, and that was fantastic. And once I met that guy, it was really easy. So it's been a bit of a journey with it all.
Yeah, I will tell you, I've had a lot of friends who have been diagnosed later on in life, and they're like, oh, I wish I was diagnosed earlier. And I was like, dude, I was diagnosed at 12. I think people think it's going to be this like, their life would be totally different if they got diagnosed early, which 100% like it would help. But I think it's like not as linear.
Yeah, I think it was like a real, like I definitely like can see maybe some benefits of like early diagnosis for me, but like it's not like I don't have this strong calling of like, I wish this happened. Like, like it's just more like, I wish maybe if I had that information, I wouldn't have developed certain like thought patterns about myself and shit like that, where I'm like, oh, I'm not bad at something, I'm just wired differently in my brain. And that's
100%. No, 100%. And like the inner critic, I think for people with like ADHD is a lot louder. You get those like intrusive thoughts and stuff. It's like a whole mixed bag.
Awful.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So you've kind of explained like your journey into art, but could you kind of describe it like a little bit more, give us a little bit more in depth? Like what made you actually be like, hey, I'm going to pick up the tools now and start creating?
So like I guess like my mum is an artist, and she's also a teacher. So like creative stuff has always been like around my life for a very long time. And like my mum does like really amazing stuff with mosaics and pastels and all sorts of cool shit, and like just like also definitely undiagnosed kind of has her fingers in a lot of pies, and like I definitely remember drawing, but like never really sticking to it. And then like I kind of, in my teen years, I kind of discovered music, and that was like the driving thing for a very long time. And then like I really sort of got the itch a bit in my later 20s. I was like working in a youth center at the time, and I just had this real free space to, I guess, run programs and do creative stuff with people. So I just kind of started painting and like doing little things of like, this is how we do like screen printing, and like doing like solar screen prints and just like little random things like that. And yeah, like I think it sort of gave me a bit of an itch again to work on like creative stuff. And I'd like sort of been winding down music, for I'd been kind of like stepping away from music for a while, and it wasn't really sparking joy as much as it used to. And then, yeah, like just before COVID, I was at my parents' house for Christmas of like 2019. And I was like, Mum, do you have any lino stuff? Because I've really wanted to do that for ages. And she was like, yeah, of course. I've got some. So we like looked around her studio and found some like really old lino and some very blunt tools, and like just kind of like, I was like, all right, lead me to it. And then I just kind of like carved without thinking, and like, yeah, like I did that for probably like a year or two, I think, like, and would do like maybe one or two prints like every 6 months, and like very like carve a print, printed onto like lined notepad
Yeah.
type paper with like probably not the right ink, and like was just very haphazard about it. And then would be like, oh, that doesn't look the way I wanted it to, and then would kind of like feel a bit of that critic spike up. So then I would like put it away for a month or two. But like 2022, I started really like getting into it a bit more and doing it more regularly. And then I started dating someone who's like a professional creative, and I think being with someone who was kind of like, I do this for a job, and like you should practice this because you've got something here. And like they really encouraged me to sort of like keep going at it. And I think through that, like I found my fixation, and that just became, I think once I had that like little push, it was sort of like, oh, okay, cool, time to go. But like they taught me so much. Like I think the first time we made art together, I was like, why are you printing this more than once? Like, what do you mean you print it like 15 times? I like didn't get it, and I didn't understand like the concept of an edition or anything like that. So like I think I've just learned so much through them, and then like transformative in like me finding my confidence with my art practice. And then through that, it's sort of been really like helped me find my own feet. And then now I'm like, okay, well I can be here, and that's been really beautiful to sort of like keep running with it since then. So
yeah, that's really nice. I love having, so I did like a mentorship with my ex-boyfriend Faust in New York, and he did that kind of similar thing with me where he taught me a lot of stuff. And it's kind of weird to call it a mentorship because like we were dating, but that is what it is, right? Like we would have dedicated times where we were in like art mode, not necessarily girlfriend boyfriend mode. And like he would just tell me things, would go do like art history. I love that. That is so good. Also, your mum being an artist, that is sick. Did you grow up with like lots of like art and things and like being creative? When growing up, was she like really encouraging of you doing art? Like was she stoked that you were getting back into it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think like when I was like I think she appreciated the music stuff, but it was definitely like kind of like speaking two different languages about creativity. And then when I like came back to it and really started doing it more regularly, and would like show her pictures and be like, oh, I did this, or I did this painting, or I did this print, and like could just see the excitement from her around that sort of stuff. And I definitely remember like being like, oh, I want to be able to draw this like character from a video game or something, and doing that as a kid, and like stuff like that to sort of like come and go from art. So yeah, but she was always sort of supportive around anything with creativity that I wanted to work on. So
yeah, that's incredible. You said you were doing some little courses, and I've spoken to you about this outside of the podcast, but like what were the like courses that you did? I don't want to say little because it's still like a feat to be able to do it. I've never done that. What were like the courses that you did, and what did you take away from that?
Yeah, so I've done like I did like a short course at NAS this year, which was like a intro to printmaking, I guess, course. And that was sort of like we covered like lino, etching, aquatint, which is also sort of etching stuff, and screen. Did we do anything else? And I kind of like spoke to my teacher, and I was like, look, this is kind of where I'm at with stuff, and I've just found etching, and like, can I just be obsessed with this and just go hang out like in the room and, you know, put shit in acid all day. And she was like, yeah, go for it. Like, so it was sort of like really nice to like be shown something and then kind of like run at it like pretty hard and then be like, why didn't this work? And, you know, like, I'm sure I had like lots of questions there. So massive thanks to Annabelle for, you know, bearing with my sort of like very enthusiastic obsessiveness about printmaking. So yeah, but I did that, and like I had a just sort of watched Printmaker last year, who was doing like a month-long exhibition. He did like a dry point tutorial, like, and it was sort of him just like working through, this is how I work with a plate and how I ink it up and stuff. And like, I think watching that and just talking to him through that, it was very lovely to like see more versions of what I was doing and what I was interested in. And it sort of like really let me sort of think about like, there's ways in which I want to have a certain technique on a plate, but I don't know how to do that with a lino. And then seeing someone like be creative with a metal copper plate and be like, oh, that way I can get that kind of like nice fade that I would see in a painting, or like some really cool textural stuff with inks, and like being more playful. And I was like, this is really interesting to expand, I guess, on how I would like come out of print now. So
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know about much to do with printmaking apart from lino printing. And then I just started getting to jelly printing. So what is copper printing?
So copper's like the etching. So I guess you can do etching on copper, or I think there's like aluminium, or like I've been working with some plastic ones, which I've just like gotten from IKEA frames, because it's like roughly the same thickness as a plastic etching sheet, and you can just kind of like carve in with a sharp point. So I've got like a few sharp needles at home, and then I've got some like tattoo needles that I've been like working with as well to like try and get some cool textures in there. So like essentially an etching is like where an ink is going into the lines in the plate, and a lino is where the ink goes where you're not carving. So it's sort of like etching can be a bit more like, I think of it more a bit like a drawing, because you're kind of like, this is where my line's going and that's where the ink's actually going to be. But then you can sort of like wipe ink on or leave it off and sort of like have a real play around with that stuff. So it leaves a little bit of space for like real creativity in how you want to do your print.
Yeah. Oh my God, don't tell me no, well, do tell us more. But now I'm like, I'm like, damn, it's so good.
Yeah.
Time when I get into printmaking,
and so like all of that stuff, it's just so like, for me, like it's so like to do like a aqua tint where you have like this tree dust that goes on there and you melt it onto this copper plate, and then you're like painting bitumen on and like dipping it in acid, and like you've got to time how long you're putting it in there, and like it's very easy to nerd out on that stuff. And like it's sort of like, I would definitely like do very long days at art school where I was just like go and like didn't stop until like the end of class, and I was just like a sweaty mess, but I was just like, oh, I've made like a full copper plate etching or worked towards getting something ready for print, and it was just so nice to be just like present.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing that I love, not only about art, but lino printing is like how present in the moment you have to be, especially when you're carving something out and like it's a very sharp blade. Obviously with collage I've used very sharp blades before, but like when you're flicking through magazines and stuff, your mind can just go anywhere, you know?
I mean, like I've been pretty lucky. I've only done a real bad cut on myself on my thumb like a month or two ago when I was like cutting paper for an exhibition, and then like I don't think I've had any really bad cuts with my tools yet, touch wood, but with Stanley knives, yeah. When I'm like, I'll turn around, be like, oh, hello, and then just like swing back and cut.
Yeah, like I once sat on a X-Acto blade in my bed and I had to like pull it out of my butt and like and I was like, no more collaging in bed, like never. But I just got like I'm trying to see where it is, how many mils, does it say how many mils is on it? I don't know, but it's like thin.
Oh, I got one of those too.
Yeah, it's like super thin.
Mine's like a 1 or a 0.5.
Yeah, that thing when I first got it was like so dangerous, you know. I was like, do not walk with this facing anyone because they will just like stab. Honestly, how do you balance being a social worker and creating art?
Oh, sometimes I don't. Like I think it depends on like where things are at with work and with my art stuff. So like at the moment I'm wrapping up a role where I'm working with people who live with HIV. So I've been doing a lot of like pretty intense like community-based outreach and case management work, and I'm not going to get too spiely about being a social worker, but like, you know, there's a lot of stuff there where you can be talking to someone and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now we're working through a disclosure about some pretty serious childhood stuff, or you know, this sort of stuff. And like you know, it's been a lot of work, I guess, learning how to look after myself through those moments and like have a really healthy balance between I'm here, I'm present with this person, and I'm like sitting through this moment with them and I'm holding space and blah, 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 blah. But I'm also like safely kind of like back a little bit where I'm still looking after myself as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's like a real balancing act, and you have to have some sort of like emotional, empathetic stuff going on your brain to like navigate that. So you can't like, I can't pretend the work doesn't affect me, because it really does. And
100%.
I think anyone who's been close to me can speak about that. But like I really have found making art incredibly helpful in sort of like processing, I guess, the work I do. And like it's really been lovely. Like at my old job I was doing it a lot more because I would get in a bit earlier and I would sit and just draw for like 20 minutes to half an hour before I started my day, and would do it at lunchtime and then be like excited to like get home and work on something. It's been like a really, when I'm excited about working on something, it's really like that's what I want to do when I get home. But if I've just like finished a project, I kind of feel a little bit empty for a while until I find the motivation to start the next thing again. So like it's kind of like an up and down process with it, I guess. But like I sort of do lots of exercise and therapy and supervision and stuff to sort of unpack my work and sort of, I guess, work through some of my personal stuff and my work stuff and how those things interact with each other.
Yeah. No, that's a good point too, because I think just as like a personal reflection with my own work in like the child protection space, if there's something really hectic in the news to do with like childhood sexual abuse and stuff, it's like super like, you know, it's a bit intense in my workspace. So it takes me a little while to like decompress and want to be able to create something, because it's just like, fuck, like,
yeah. And like,
you know,
like I did like 9 months in child protection, and I was like, I couldn't get out of there soon enough. So like, fucking mad respect.
Oh no, thanks. Oh, I'm coming up to 3 years. So.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But like I sit very much in like the back end of things, but like still sometimes like have a dip a toe in one section and I'm like, oh nope, I don't like that. I'm going back into the back end. So, you know. But
and so like sometimes for me when things are really heavy, like art is either makes the most sense or it makes no sense. Like sometimes it's like I almost need to grieve the day I've had, or like, you know, like when I've been working with people and there's been a death in their circle and I've supported them through that, and like that kind of work has been like incredibly taxing, and then it's sort of like I don't want to create right now, I don't want to do anything. Like I haven't grieved with someone, but like, you know, when you do stuff with someone and you're going with them to say goodbye to their, you know, partner, and you're in with a body, like it's kind of like, I'm not going to have a normal day now, like. And like that's a real, like, sharing those things are a real privilege, but it's sort of like I also need to like almost honor that in a way and sort of give it the space it needs, and, you know, pick it up another time.
Yeah, I agree. We are getting a little bit deeper, which is nice. So this next question is a little deep, which is, what messages are you trying to convey in your art?
I really struggled with this question for a long time. Like when I talk to people about my work, and like when I talk about like what it means, and it's sort of like it was almost like a secondary concept to me, and it was sort of like I want to create because I love the feeling that it gives me when I create, feel like I've figured something out. And so like I just did an exhibition about that, where I was like, it is about the images that are on the walls, but it's also about that this is a show almost about mental health, because, you know, these are the things that I've done over the last few years to, you know, help myself stay calm and work through really big feelings and work through things that like haven't been good, you know, the things that I've been talking to therapists about, or like, you know, calling my parents and having some very like sad conversations with them and stuff like that. So like I think my work's probably always going to be tied to mental health, because I like that's a journey I'm just going to be on, in a relationship with myself that I'm going to be working on forever, and that's okay. And like I think I'm really interested in the ways that shows up in my world, and how do I talk about that with people, and how do I talk about the feelings I get from doing an art practice that's really tactile. And I think like I guess the secondary extension of that is like doing that as someone who's in a male body, and like what's expectations of man and mental health and expression and, you know, like sexuality and all sorts of stuff. There's like these really big, like, this is how you're supposed to do XYZ in the world if you're a man. Yeah, like I think I've always really struggled with that. So like it's definitely an area that I kind of want to like maybe explore more as well. But then the next series of stuff I'm working on is about buildings. So like we'll figure out how that's connected to. But yeah.
That's okay. I love the vulnerability. It's so nice. On the discussion of, you know, men's mental health, is that it's like so important for other men to be discussing their mental health. As women, we've like are good at communicating about mental health with one another. And I think when it comes from a woman to a man being like mental health, it's like it's not that same contextualized, really, like I understand.
Big time.
Yeah.
And like that's been really powerful in, I guess, like the work, or the way I've been talking about the work, in that like through talking and being like open about like, hey, I've felt this about myself, or I've had these thoughts about XYZ, you know, I'm in therapy, or like I'm grieving things, and like talking to people really openly, and not in a way of like, you now have to hold this for me, but in a, I got this, I'm looking after myself, but I'm going through stuff and I'm going to be okay, but I'm just real sad, right? Doing that with other men, people I've not had like big conversations with before, and then them reaching out and be like, it's really nice to hear these things, or didn't realize you were going through this, I've been doing this, or like kind of having those openings, and you're like, oh, cool, we're all feeling this. Like we're all kind of hurting somewhere. And it's been just really lovely to sort of have that expression and getting to share that with people. Because like sometimes I really struggle like talking with dudes and like associating with people, and I sort of like struggle a bit with that of like, what kind of guy are you, and are you a trustworthy person, am I a trustworthy person to you, and are we policing each other right now? And like, you know, like I think that's been like an ongoing process with like, I guess, my expression of like masculinity, or whatever you want to call it. So
thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. And also I think what I really want to like highlight with you is that the journey that you're taking is it'll feel like you're really alone on that journey, but the more you talk about it, the more it happens, the less alone you feel, right?
Oh yeah, massively, 100%. And so like, I think, you know, that's something that I've been sort of like experiencing that like kind of like on the fly for the last couple of years, definitely. And just sort of like openly asking people about like their mental health and talking about it. And, you know, it's not a conversation I have with everyone all the time. Like, because sometimes I'm like, you know, if my world's fucked, or if I've been sitting with people and their world's been fucked all day, I'm like, I just want to talk about memes that are absurd. And
Totally.
just like, here's this video and the noise is loud and it's really silly, and no one else is laughing, but this is what I need right now. But yeah, it's definitely been really amazing to sort of like find that deeper level of connection with other people around that sort of stuff. And you kind of by nature feel less alone, because you're kind of like, I'm not asking you to carry this with me, but I need to tell someone about this. And then like they're like, that's okay, like it's all good, we've got the same stuff. And you're like, oh shit, didn't realize.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know, the more I do that, the more I realize that we're all got a lot of commonalities.
Whenever I feel like the most alone in my life is like generally once I reach out, more people come forward and they're like, I feel the same way. I'm like, you know how I've been doing those identity reels at the moment, how I've been like struggling with my identity, like my art identity and stuff. I've had so many people reach out and be like, bro, I had no idea who I was until I was like 40. I'm going through this right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm not fucking crazy. Like, this is society, you know. But I think it's also great that you're talking to Australian men about their mental health, because we have a real culture issue with men and women being able to like express their emotions in like a healthy way, or being taught about emotions. So that's incredible. Like,
yeah, I mean, I like in terms of being taught, like I can only speak for myself, but I wasn't taught. Like I had to figure it out, and it like I needed to go to pretty dark places before I was like, okay, this isn't working anymore, and I need to figure out how to do something differently about this. You know,
yeah,
and it was like people like having panic attacks and not realizing that's what was going on for me.
been there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you for being really vulnerable about that. That's incredible. And at this point of the show, I'm going to ask that everyone goes to Granny Prince's Instagram, that's Matt's Instagram name, and have a look at his art to see what kind of messages he's conveying there. But I want to kind of take us out of this really deep space now, and I want to talk about some more light stuff, if that's all right. You happy to do that? Okay, cool. Was there any big influences that you have for silk screen printing of lino or etching?
Yeah, like I really, again, like it's another thing I struggle with, because like my like two big, I guess, reference points are like social workers and social theorists and like hardcore bands. So it's sort of like for a long time it was like, well, I don't know any artists, or I don't know, so like I didn't have, and I'm still learning the language of like talking about that sort of stuff. But like Marco Lucio, who was the guy I saw do this etching dry point demonstration, he was really incredible to see someone talk sort of like kind of give the answers that I was looking for without me sort of asking. And he was talking about printmaking and sort of expression, and just watching him sort of create and stuff, and like it was really nice to connect with him and like just talk about art, and just kind of be like, I don't have my language, but I like these things, and like, you know, like bond over that sort of stuff. And I guess my like teachers at art school, Annabelle McEwen, she's an amazing printmaker and does some really cool experimental stuff, and like always is like, we'll be like, I've done this, and I'm like, fucking how did you do that? That's insane. And so like I think some of those people, and then just like my ex-partner was really lovely printmaker, and definitely learned a lot from her, and a few people on Insta. But like it's definitely been kind of like, I don't know, it feels for me, printmaking has been like almost like this open book where people kind of really share their stuff, and like people being like, oh, how did you get that effect, or how did you do your registration? And then you're like when I sent you those videos the other day, I'm like, these are the little things I use to get like my print lined up. And like it seems like that's just like kind of standard with printmaking, and like people are very happy to share and like kind of trade knowledge. And that's like I found that was really beautiful, to kind of almost stumble into a community like unexpectedly. So there's been so many people that I talked to on the gram that have just been amazing, and I don't know all of their names, and some of them I just know by handles. So shout out to all of them.
Yeah, nice. And I think that's a really good point that you bring up about how open everyone is in printmaking, because certainly in collage, people aren't really that open to say how they do certain things, which is why I like to be so transparent about it, because it's so easy to copy one another. Whereas with printmaking, it's actually quite difficult to copy someone else. Others, of course, you just like print out what they've done and you etch it or like put it on. But so many opportunities to be different and to make something different, which is really nice. Yeah, I love that sense of community. I loved that you sent me those. I need to buy what those things are called. The thingamajigs. I don't know what they're called.
Registration tabs.
Yeah, registration tabs.
Yeah.
I need to
I've got
buy
links.
some.
I'll send it to you.
Because before I was just like dropping it down and then like rubbing the back of it. I was just like, whatever, I don't. Chris was like, are you sure you're meant to be doing this way? I was like, I'm fucking no, brother. I'm just trying it out.
But I think too, there's such a cool, I'm sure there'll be certain people that are like, oh yeah, this is how you make a lino, and this is how you do an etching, and blah, 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 blah. But like, I think also it's a community that really like almost celebrates play and expression as well, and being
Yeah.
like, oh, I wanted to try this and do like where you would normally wipe down on like a copper plate with an etching and you wipe the ink away. I was like, what if I do some of that on a lino plate, which is not really, I guess, a normal thing to do, and just like play around with those sorts of ideas. And yeah, so like I think there's been a lot of like a lot of different sort of expression and creativity, and it just sort of gives you space to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I don't know, like I can't speak as much with other mediums that they might be like, well, that's not how you do a painting, or that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, I'm just
Yes. Well, I did interview someone the other day, and the reference, I can't remember what it was, but they called me out straight away and was like, no, that is not how you do it. And I was like, whoa, like, okay. Anyway,
yeah.
like, I was like, okay, like, I don't know. I was just a bit like, can't you just do it anyway? I think that's the ADHD thing though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to do it a little bit backwards, maybe a little bit in the middle part, and then I'll reach the beginning part at some point, like
Yeah.
the steps are a little muddled, but it's like, we still get the same final product.
Yeah. And like, I think that like also when you start like doing print runs of like 15 or 20 prints, you kind of like figure out where you're at with stuff. You go, that one worked. Why did that work? Why didn't that work? And like, it was really nice to kind of like develop a bit of an idea of that on my own, and then meet with people and be like, I have questions now of why this thing has done this, but this hasn't, and what's going on there. And like, kind of like I've half filled in the sentence and I need you to help me figure out the other half of it. Yeah. And so like having that ADHD of like, I'm just going to keep trying it until it works.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's why it's working. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of repetition, which can sometimes be annoying, but it's all right.
Yeah. Or it's only if we're like hyper focused, the repetition's nice, but
Yeah.
whatever. This is why I don't think I could ever study it like a Bachelor of Fine Art, because like I think I would hate being constricted to like that whole thing,
Yeah. 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 And like I think like I really want to continue doing some study stuff, but I want it to be about the practice. Like I don't tell me about like an artist or someone's importance to like making it. It's like, that's really great, and I'm sure that has relevance to what I'm doing. But I also kind of like not knowing, and I like, it's a bit of a snotty thing, but I kind of enjoy when people are like, can you tell me about this? I'm like, no, I can't actually. I don't have that language. This is what I know about. You can kind of see people's brains go a bit like, and it's like, I'm doing this because I like making. Like that's why I do it. And people are like, can you tell me about it? It's like, it makes me less sad. Like I can give you the long end of that one as well, but like, did the thing, made me a bit happier, and the world's a little bit brighter for a while.
Yeah. No, 100%. I love that. That's like way before when I asked you about influences, I was like, damn, he really don't care about art history. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. Like it's like I'd like much rather like, not, I wouldn't now, but like, there's probably more space in my brain for like dead philosophers and theorists and people who have done therapy styles and shit like that, and like hardcore bands from the 80s and 90s and 2000s that are like, oh, that's so much more important to me than like, people be like, oh, well, this person made these prints. It's like, yeah, but they didn't make this fucking record. Like, and that's way more meaningful to me. So like, I don't know, like I think part of it for me has sort of been like taking lessons from other places in my life and like really sort of being like, oh, well, these people have taught me these things. And because I know these things now, I can work on other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. I mean, I'm of the ethos that you don't ever have to explain yourself. You can just do whatever the fuck you want, unless not hurting people, obviously, but like, creatively, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the
Yeah.
ethos of I'll probably over explain myself, but
Oh, don't do that. That's way too people pleasing, Matt. You gotta stop doing that. I'm gonna try to like infiltrate your inner critic and
Yeah.
be like, "Oi, stop trying to
Oh
people,
yeah,
please."
it's loud. It is loud. Like,
Tell us 3 things that have really helped you during your art practice.
I guess finding confidence has been like the biggest one, I would say. And like that confidence then, or like confidence or being encouraged to be confident, and then like that then being like, okay, well, I deserve to be able to make, and I can work on that, and then kind of seeing that if I apply that, then it gets a bit better, and then I understand it a bit more. And that's been probably a really big thing for me. I think like finding a sense of community in printmaking has been massive as well. Like I think like when I stopped doing musically as regularly, and I stopped going to shows as regularly, it was sort of like definitely grieving like a like bit of identity. And like I think through finding a new community, not that the old community was bad, but it was just like it just wasn't as important in my life anymore. And like finding people who are just like excited about stuff and want to make and share their tricks and be like, oh, you're into this too? Cool. Like, let's talk about it. And we should make prints sometime. And like, you know, come do a workshop with us, and like, you know, that sort of stuff where it's just like, oh, cool. Everyone wants to like everyone's kind of lifting each other up, and like, you know, we're all like rising up. So like I found that really, I guess, using my hyperfixation, seeing as we've talked about neurodivergence a lot. But yeah, I think lino becoming my obsession really, or like fixation, has really sort of like helped in getting a better understanding of my practice and why things do the things that they do when you make a print. And then that turns into like I'm doing it before I go to bed, and then I do it when I'm waking up, and I'm missing the bus to go to work because I got lost while I was carving, and you know, that sort of stuff. And like, so like I think kind of finding a bit of a fixation there for a while really sort of like boosted that. But like I think like confidence and the encouragement from multiple people in my life has been amazing, and that's like really helped me challenge my own stuff.
Love it. Love to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I have no follow-up for that.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It's like, because it's very personal to like who you are in your practice, you know?
Yeah. It's really fascinating when you ask people those things, and you start thinking about them and you go, oh, well, these things are this. Then you like sometimes when like I hear other people answer questions like that, I'm like, I wouldn't have ever thought of that in my answers. And then, you know, that's is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it's also like underlying of like practicing gratitude, right? It makes you more like grateful for having that art and finding it, and, you know, being able to express yourself and finding the community, finding courage. Even though, you know, inner critic Matt is like total dickhead sometimes. I just, you know, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And then like being at like kind of like coming to terms with like this part of me is you're not going anywhere. And like, fuck, you're really shitty sometimes, but we've got to work on a relationship because you're not leaving and I'm not leaving. So how do we make this work?
100%.
Then I think by doing that and being like, you're here for a reason, and why are you here today? Like, I think sometimes, I would say 99% of the time, like the critic isn't there for a good reason, you know.
Yeah.
But it might have served at one point many, many years ago, but has since worn out its welcome.
So how was having your first solo exhibition?
Pretty scary. Definitely, you know, critic came to the party at certain points, but like I booked it end of last year, and then sort of like had Christmas, and then like January I was like, shit, I've got to figure out what I'm putting in this show. I've got to like do all of the stuff, and like then it was like really stress time for a while. But yeah, probably once I'd definitely like kind of gone over the hill and was like, oh, this is all happening now, everything's sorted. It was really nice to start like connecting with people, and then like reconnecting with people that like I've known through friends of friends, and they're doing their own first solo shows as well, and like be like, oh, we're kind of going through this together, and like how exciting or how stressful this is, and like all that sort of stuff. But it was really, really beautiful, and it was like lots of people came, and like I met lots of new people as well over the time I had the show open, and it was just really lovely time.
Yeah, nice. And the night goes so quickly, hey.
Yeah. I was like, I think during the day before we opened, I was like pottering around the gallery, and the Kate and Felix, the two owners of the gallery, were like, dude, like it's like 1 o'clock. You can't like get the meat and cheese ready yet. Like just relax. Like everything's hung. Like you've got a few hours. Like chill. Have a beer.
Yeah.
It's all good. And I'm like, yeah. I might just sweep the floor and just like.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah. So I was probably over prepared, but it was really beautiful to see new friends and old friends, and like my parents came down. I had some friends fly in for it, and it was just really beautiful to get to show that. And like, you know, it was sort of like an exhibition about the process of printmaking. So there was you know, prints I'd made, but then there was prints that were specifically about making prints, you know. And you know, there was like a different, like, so there was linos, there was some screen prints, there was some etchings, I put a few paintings in, which is definitely not printmaking, but I was like, I'm putting that in anyway.
Whatever, it's your show, you can do whatever you want.
I need to fill that space, so that's going there. And then just like a few things that were like made in the process of printmaking, where I was just playing around with spatulas and rollers and stuff. But yeah, and then I had like my lino shards and plates laying around, and like really wanted to kind of capture like the back end processes of like making the work, because it was sort of like so much of it about why I do this is that process. So I really wanted to like celebrate that. So
yeah,
you know,
it looks so good. I'm so sorry that Chris and I didn't come.
oh,
I think
it's okay. Well, you'll have to be there for the next one.
So you had a good time. I mean, it is stressful. I haven't had a solo show for like nearly 10 years.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I had a great time. And it was definitely stressful, but it was really nice. And like it's sort of like I think I have the critic sort of helps with not talking about the art, and like not talking about myself, or not being like, oh, I did this thing and it's really cool, I'm excited about it, and not being like, I'll just wait for someone to ask me. And I think when you're then manning a gallery and you have to talk to people as they come in and be like, oh, I've done this, and you know, do you have any questions, and yada yada yada, it was really helpful in sort of like breaking down some of those, like practicing breaking down some of those things. So
did you do an artist talk?
No, yeah. I just wrote probably like a nice bio about being sad.
That's funny. Sorry, I'm only laughing because I have depression. So it's like,
yeah. It was like Matt lives with like a brain that tells him unhelpful things, and like most people is like trying to figure out who he is in late stage capitalism, and you know, all that sort of shit.
Yeah. See, I think that's like half the reason why I don't want to do like another solo exhibition, is that I know that I'll have to do an artist talk, and I like hate talking in front of lots of people. I'm great being in a room with lots of people, but like I don't want to like talk in front of a lot of people because I get really flustered and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And I think Kate and Felix were like, do you want to talk? And I was like, not really. Like,
yeah.
Like, I like it's kind of, there's that like video of David Lynch, and he's like, that you spend all this time making a movie, and then they're like, talk about the movie, and you're like, the movie is the talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's kind of how I feel. Like it's like, yeah, like no, I'm good, thank you. Like, please come and talk to me if you are interested, but I won't bother you while you're here.
Yeah, but also like on a side note, I hate going to like an artist talk and then you ask a question to the artist and they like shut you down. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to fucking go to these things anymore. Like, I can't talk at them. I can't ask questions. Like, you know, I just, Yeah,
but I'm like, I think it's really interesting too. Like, I really appreciate like a good talk when it feels like it mirrors up with like what you're seeing and what you're experiencing when you go in places. And I think like it's very interesting when there's a disconnect. And I've heard other people talk about that. Like, and it's like, like creating and putting something on the wall because I like doing that. I wanted to make that. Sometimes I feel like I wish that could be my submission. I wanted to make these things and I want to put them on the wall here. Here's my money for the hire. Like, see you later.
Question that you don't have to answer, but did you make any money on it after all your costs and everything?
Like I think I covered my hire costs and stuff.
Mhm.
And I made sales, and it was the first time I'd made sales in a while, which was really nice. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, this is very exciting. That it was kind of that like I valued something, and someone else is like, I also value that, and it wasn't about the money, but it was like kind of like the acknowledgement of someone else valuing something I felt was valuable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
nice. No, that's cool. That's cool. Love it. So, anything that you've learned or changed in your business practice thus far?
I think I'm still learning to talk about the stuff, talk about the art. I feel like I'm big noting myself when I talk about art or my art and putting myself out there. Sometimes I'm like, oh, people wouldn't people ask me if they want stuff, and like I think part of those lessons are also from stuff I'm learning probably about my own mental health, is that like by putting myself out there, I'm going to connect with people who are interested or might also be like, we're looking for someone, or you kind of strike up a conversation and then suddenly you're like, oh, now I'm doing this thing, or someone's commissioned me to do this. And if I didn't have the conversation about like, I've been working on these things, that people would like have not thought of you. So I think sometimes like learning about putting myself out there more has been like probably the biggest thing. And I guess like valuing my work, like I have had a lot of people be like, you're underselling yourself, but I'm also like,
Mhm.
struggle at asking people for money. So
Yeah. Did you ever do any like retail work when you're doing like social work study where you like, I know social work study is like intense though, so you probably didn't
yeah,
have the opportunity to have like another job. But did you ever have to do like sales or anything like that?
yeah, I did bottle shop work, and then like I foolishly did it all throughout my placements. So I worked like both of my
Bro.
uni placements. I worked 7 days a week for 6 months, and it was just like insane.
Yeah.
Like I was so tired, and like definitely like borrowed and begged and stealed to get through because I had no Centrelink, and probably wasn't a fun housemate to be around, but that's by the by. But yeah, like I really always struggled, even in those sectors of like people are here to make purchases and buy things
Yeah.
and they want your recommendations. And I was always like, I don't want to interrupt you. I want to let you do your thing. And, if you ask me, I'll have a chat with you, but like, I don't want to. I don't want to annoy you because, like, I always really struggle when
Yeah.
I'm in a shop and someone's like, "How you going? What's up?" And it's like, you've interrupted me now. I'm stressed about being here, and the light's weird,
Yeah.
and it's too
Yeah.
noisy. Now I have to think about holding a conversation.
Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. The
So it was
only
probably
thing,
it was probably some things that I didn't realize were a big flashing sign about a
yeah.
diagnosis in my life.
But I mean, you got a social work degree, so
Yeah,
so I mean, you're
yeah,
doing something right. But like, I think the biggest thing with like I hate being salesy to people, but I
yeah,
always just like break it down to like feature and benefits and
yeah.
what their budget is.
Mm,
And, you know, I always think, if I don't ask, I don't know. So I'll just ask, do you want to buy it or do you not want to buy it? Because like,
yeah,
if you don't
yeah,
want to buy
yeah,
it, that's fine. Well,
yeah,
like, I got to make money too,
yeah, yeah. And so it was
Uh,
cool to like I guess get the coin back that I needed to set up for the show. So
mhm.
that was like, well, I kind of feel like I'm at zero, and like it sort of helped me put money towards my next show in August, which is going to be like a split show. So
Nice. Who's that going to be with?
that's with an artist named Tom Simo. So we'll be going to be working through like architecture in the inner west. Um,
Ooh.
so that'll be a cool little gallery in Ashfield called Prop. They did like this really cool
Oh, he does really cool stuff.
yeah, like a print of like I think it was like apartment buildings, and then
Yeah,
they screened that onto fabric and then like made like a suit jacket out of the fabric, and it was so cool to see photos of them posed by their art in like the same art in the jacket.
crazy,
Yeah,
crazy. Actually, really quickly, this is off topic.
yeah.
Well, it's not off topic, it still has to do with this. Do you prefer oils or like acrylic ink?
Oh, definitely oil. Um,
Same.
yeah. So I did like water-based stuff at the start, and then like I think I got an oil, and I didn't realize what I'd need to clean up like proper oil stuff, and then like stunk out my apartment because I had fucking chemicals like just like wafting through the air and was waking up with headaches. I was like, maybe I should leave these outside. But I've got like there's a brand now that does, they're like a UK based brand, and they do like a safe wash oil. So it's like an oil base that breaks down in hot soapy water. So you can like, it's really makes it a lot easier because a lot of studios now are looking for more sustainable practice. And when you hire, they kind of like, we don't want you to use these chemicals here. And it's when it's like, oh, I can just wash up in the sink and this breaks down with soap and water. It's a lot easier than being like, well, I need like my terps and I need metho and I need all this. I need safe disposals of my oily rags and all that sort of crap. So yeah.
Well, so you know how you told me how like Sakura ink is like a bitch to clean up? I just got baby wipes and that cleaned it perfect.
Yep.
But I don't like the whole fact that like it's obviously a baby wipe and like contributing to like the garbage. So I don't know if maybe I could like get a baby wipe that like is break it downable, I don't know, biodegradable or whatever, and like maybe put some of that stuff into like the ink. I don't fucking know, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that's the tricky thing, because like a lot of the real old school technique stuff ain't great for the old environment, you know. And you know, and that's because it was fucking probably made like hundreds of years ago when people were like, I don't care about that, I'm just gonna make pretty
there's like
pictures.
no concept. No concept. So how are you finding the cost of living?
Oh, it's pretty shitty. I've moved in with a mate, and I'm house sharing. Again, I was living on my own for a while, but it was just fucking psycho. The amount of, I think what I'm paying here in rent is was like my weekly, or maybe just over my weekly. So I'm really trying to do house sharing, and that's been awesome to like cut down on rent, which is good. But yeah, Sydney is not a cheap city to live in. Cosy Lives is not fun.
Yeah, Cosy Lives is fucked.
Yeah, I mean, like I am quite lucky that I work a job that is, you know, quite reasonably paid, and you know, there's privilege in that, and like there's a very, you know, it's kind of sad, but social work isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and there's some real stability in, you know, whether there might be instability in certain roles, like it's sort of like there's always those jobs in that industry, and that's always going to be going. So like I really sort of have seen creatives in my life really struggle over the last couple of months, and that's been really heartbreaking to watch people who do amazing work like really, you know, not get the recognition, or you know, they're feeling like rent's getting tighter and all that sort of shit. And it's just like, man, like that sucks. So yeah, I'm really glad that I am lucky enough that I don't have to stress myself about selling my work. And I think that's also why I sort of still am learning how to sell my work or sell myself like here. Because I don't have to do it full time. I kind of just blow in and out of it, and people are like, oh, that's cool. And you're like, yeah, it is. And then like they leave and you're like, oh, that was probably like an opportunity to like talk more, dude, and like maybe make a sale there, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, don't worry. So I haven't made like any sales really. I made like a t-shirt sale, but it was like from a friend the other day and whatever. Still very much appreciate it, but I didn't realize that the t-shirts that I do the printing on, that they had gone up in price and that the shipping gone up in price. So I'd actually made no money off that.
Oh,
yeah, man. I got like an inquiry say on my website, and it was like a woman who's doing collage, I think. And she's like, how do you do this thing? She's like, I think I need a workshop. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it for free because nobody has any money. It's fine. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But of course, if there's a whale out there that wants to buy a lot of like really nice art, you should check out Matt's art.
And your art, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. But like, you know, we make sure that all our people are fed first, you know. So So let's go into self-care. So we've obviously discussed it. Burnout is a huge part of social work. Would you say that art is part of your self-care, and how do you make it more intentional to be a part of your self-care?
I'd definitely say that art is probably like one of the biggest parts of my self-care. Um, and I think that creative expression, especially like a tactile practice like printmaking and lino carving, it's very easy to sort of unwind um, when you need to sort of switch off. And it's a lot healthier than like choosing to take something to switch off. So like I really think that's been like really beneficial for me. I'm like a massive fan of physical movement. I like personal Instagram pages, just all weightlifting stuff. So that keeps me very busy after work, as I really sort of sweat out the day. Lots of therapy, which is kind of like, I guess, long-term self-care.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a real passion area for me of, I guess, sort of straining more into like my professional quote unquote career, but like how social workers do self-care. And like it's very interesting now that like there's more and more research coming out that it's like it's not about the actual content of what you face day to day with people, and like that is definitely heartbreaking sometimes, and it's really hard. But you know, I can count on one hand the times where that's really shaken me, like where I'm like, "Ooh, that's serious," and I need to check in with someone about that. And more times, it's about systemic stuff. It's about, you know, the ways in which systems like let people down, or you have to be the almost extension of that system, and like when you have to practice outside of your value base and organizational stuff. And so like a lot of the research is like the system needs to be fixed first. Well, the system's broken, and it's not broken, it's doing what it's supposed to do, and we're all suffering. But like that's the big thing that causes the burn. So like I think I'm quite passionate about talking about doing that better at workplaces, and it's definitely something I want to sort of keep implementing as I get older as a social worker, because I'm coming up on like 10 years now.
Oh my God, congrats.
Thank
That's so
you.
nice. Social workers, like, I don't know, they don't get, we were talking about this at like a conference at work, how like you have like aged care and disability, and then you have child protection, but then there's this like whole other branch of like social work that like doesn't get any, or community-based work that like doesn't get any sort of recognition. I don't know, we just like have such a high turnover at the organizations that I work in, and it's nothing really to do with the culture, because culture there's great, but it's just because it's so fucking hectic. And it's
yeah, and
you
I mean,
know,
like, definitely with like things like child protection, you like that's so much you kind of see behind the curtain in a sense with, I guess, humanity, and it kind of changes the way you look at the world. Sometimes not for the best, because you're like, wow, there's real evil in my community, and this is really fucked up. You know, and
yeah,
these things happen to vulnerable people and vulnerable young people, and you're just like,
but also there's real
oh,
evil in the system, because
yeah,
like
that
they
too. Like,
perpetuate it. Yeah,
yeah.
I could go on on about it. So you kind of listed some other parts of your self-care, but tell us about weightlifting or powerlifting. I don't know what you call it. I'm
So
not a
I
gym
do
girly.
Olympic weightlifting, which
Okay, yeah.
is different from powerlifting. So
Okay.
powerlifting is like squat, bench, deadlift,
Okay.
and very like
Oh, okay.
very about strength. And Olympic weightlifting is too, but it's the snatch and the clean and jerk, and it's sort of like a mixture of strength and technique. And it comes to a certain point in training where strength only gets you so far, and if you don't work on your technique and your mobility, you can't lift certain things. And it's just like, I could deadlift that, but I can't clean that, because I need this part of my body to be working differently, or I'm doing this part of the movement weirdly. And so like I think it's, again, very tactile. It really forces me to be present. Like I can't be thinking about work or like family stuff or relationships when I'm like trying to throw like 80 kilos over my head. It's sort of like that's what I'm doing right now for the next, couple of seconds. And then it's sort of like, okay, I reset and rest and check in that I'm still alive and then go again. And so that's sort of been like a really massive thing for managing, I guess, my physical health and my mental health. And like it's sort of like tied into chronic illness stuff from a few years ago as well, that like doctors were like, oh, do you have to exercise? Like it's kind of like move it or lose it sort of stuff. And like I think that really motivated me to get into exercise. And then I really wanted to I didn't want to be a CrossFitter because I don't like the kind of cultiness of CrossFit.
Yeah, no thanks.
But
I don't
I
want to be
loved
yelled
those
at.
two movements, and it was really, really sort of like beautiful to see those movements when they're done really well. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened like that. And it's just, I just sort of really started obsessing about it. And then I started training with like one of my like mates that I used to work with at Macca's when I was like 15, who had become a coach. And we've just sort of like gone our separate ways because I want to compete this year. So I need a coach in Sydney. So I've just started training with someone new. So yeah, lots of like cool stuff going on.
Bro, that's
Yeah.
sick. You should be so proud of yourself. Look at you go.
Yes, I am. Yeah, there's lots of cool things. Oh, and cooking too. Cooking, I love but that's more like self-care with other people. So like I don't cook really nice stuff for myself often, but cooking for other people, it's like I'm doing something that I love doing for someone else, and it's really nice. And yeah.
Can I challenge you to cook something really nice for yourself? Take yourself on like a mini home date.
Oh yeah, I need to. When I first lived on my own, I was doing that once a week, and it was so good. So I need to get back to doing that.
I'm going to challenge you to do it. You know what you should make? Do you eat meat?
Yeah.
You should make yourself a beef bourguignon.
Oh, I don't think I've made one of those before.
So good. So fucking good. It's my favorite winter food.
Yeah, but I did French onion soup a while back, and like proper like all day, and I was just like making sounds and like it was like it was very, very tasty. So I should make myself some stuff and then like just kind of shuffle off the lino shards from my desk so I can sit up properly and not have like, I don't know, not have food on my couch. And
fair enough.
My coffee table.
Brick, good thing you brought up onion soup because I've been wanting to make it the last couple of weeks. So I'll be sending you a photo of that when it's done. Yeah. But we're coming to the end of the podcast now. So wanted to ask if you have anything interesting coming up for you that you'd like to share. You said that you were going to have another exhibition. Do you want to share any details about that?
Yeah, so I think that's in August, if memory serves. Got to get the dates, but I think it's towards the end of August that's kicking off. So very excited for that. Which I think this year I just feel like I'm just jumping into biting off more than I can chew, and I feel like that's also been like how I've like grown my practice, I guess, as being like I'm gonna do that thing that I don't know how to do, and then I'm doing it now. So yeah, I think that's kind of probably pretty common for people with certain brains. But yeah, doing that, and then like don't know, maybe I think there might be a group show I'm doing. I've just got to hear back about that, and there's a few other things maybe on the cards, but early days with those things. But just want to keep making and like do some experiments with stuff that I've kind of been thinking about that I wanted to put in the show that I just didn't. I just like ran out of time. So I'm like, don't forget that idea. So yeah.
Nice. Well, that's good. I'm glad. And thank you for being so vulnerable with me and everyone else.
Oh,
super appreciate it.
You know, that's because you made me feel safe. So
I love you. You're the best.
Yeah, well, if you were like, tell us about this, I'd be like, well, that's not comfortable.
Yeah, no. No, thanks. No. I'm in a good mood today, I guess. I got the capacity, you know?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting. Like, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, and then like critic stuff was like, you don't have anything to talk about, like, and I was
You
like,
don't know
oh no, mate, come
anything.
on, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of just came out, I guess, as well. But
I love it. No, it's good. It was great. And everyone needs to follow Matt on Instagram. And of course, I'm just going to put in a little thing that says, like, you know, if you want to talk about your mental health with Matt, just check his capacity beforehand. Um,
oh
just
yeah,
because,
yeah. Yeah,
just
as
because he
someone who's
does.
like talks with people about their mental health every
Yeah.
day, all day,
Yeah.
like please maybe check in first, or if
Mhm.
things are like pretty red hot, I might say, hey man, like I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
hope you're okay, but like let's get you into your GP for a mental health care plan.
Yeah. So just if you want to chat to him about mental health, go for it, but just check his capacity before dumping it on him. And you should always do that with everybody, because that's just a good thing to do in this day and age. But anyway, thanks, Matt, for coming on my potty.
Thanks for having me. This has been so cool.
No worries. You're welcome. This episode was recorded on Yuggera and Turrbal land. Sovereignty was never ceded. The episode was produced by myself, Madeline Butini. And if you would like to support 1-800-MAD-BUTT, you can head to my website, madbutt.com.au, or you can also go to our Instagram and follow us there. Of course, we appreciate any reviews, so please leave us one if you love it. And yeah, hope to see you again. Thank you.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again.